Guys, alright guys, this just came over my in my Google, like it just catches stuff and it just pops up, and this just popped in here, and I've looked a little into it. I've read a little bit of it, but not very much. I'm gonna read you guys a little bit of it, and I'm gonna copy the link and share it because I can't talk for very long, otherwise I will start coughing. I did get a lot of medication today at the doctor, and I feel a little better, but I need a lot of sleep. I've lost a lot of sleep. But I'm up right now because of the dose of prednisone they gave me. Will keep me awake for a little while. But, so I'm going to read you part of it. It's freaking crazy, and it is scary as all get up. Very scary and sick. Okay, the Fresno Bee. How a secret Chinese-run lab in Reedley illegally stored vials of COVID-19 infectious diseases. Now this just came up August 7th. Literally, like, yeah. Now. It's new. Alright. Oh, good. There's a part that lets you read it. Okay, I'm going to try this because it's going to help my voice. Okay, guys?
How a secret Chinese-run lab in Reedley illegally stored vials of COVID-19 infectious diseases. Reedley. Giselyn Harper, the city of Reedley's code enforcement officer, thought the call would be routine, following up on an anonymous complaint about a business operating without a permit in an old warehouse. But when she found a jury-rigged garden hose sticking through a rear wall and a ventilation fan blowing foul-smelling air through an open back door, things took a turn. Harper knocked on the front door of the decades-old cold storage warehouse for an inspection. What she discovered inside on that December day was almost the stuff of science fiction. Dozens of refrigerators filled with vials of blood, viruses and bacteria, containers of chemicals, hundreds of laboratory mice, and an array of stored laboratory equipment, all inside an unpermitted business operating illegally. I wasn't looking for an unpermitted lab, Harper told the Fresno Bee this week. I was just looking for an unpermitted business. Prestige Biotech Incorporated, a company whose owners live in China, was using the building near Reedley's downtown for storing and shipping an array of diagnostic test kits for COVID-19, pregnancy, drugs and more after apparently being booted out of their Fresno location in late 2022. The inventory of biological agents in the refrigerators include coronavirus and other exotic contagions, such as malaria, hepatitis B and C, chlamydia, human herpes, and rubella, among others, used in the production of various test kits. Now, 8 months after the surprising discovery, and about 5 months after the lab was shut down, local, state and federal agencies continue to investigate and clean up a business that has existed within a murky and muddled realm of regulatory authority. It's apparently a first-of-its-kind situation for investigators in the U.S. Even as court documents show that the company is in the midst of efforts to relocate back to Fresno. We're finding out that with these private labs, there really isn't as much regulation as there is for publicly funded labs that receive grants, said Harper, who has been involved in the investigation since December 19. There's no one technically looking for them. The lab inside the warehouse in downtown Reedley operated from December through March, when city officials deemed the building unsafe and padlocked it. The removal of equipment, medical devices and chemicals inside may take another month or two. As news of the lab's existence and closure broke last week, the Bee decided to take a deep look at how the illicit lab was able to operate, how it was discovered and shut down, and how news of its existence sparked conspiracy theories rooted in distrust of China and debate over the origins of COVID-19. We spoke to numerous investigators and reviewed hundreds of pages of court documents to compile this report. Deadly viruses, at least 20 potentially infectious agents. Prestige Biotech Incorporated, a company incorporated in Nevada but whose owners live in China, and its predecessor Universal Meditech Incorporated previously operated for several years in an industrial building in South Fresno. Following a fire at that site, and amid a dispute with its landlord, the owners relocated the lab and its equipment to lease space inside the Reedley warehouse at 850 I St. According to experts assisting the city, the lab looked like it was set up for shipping already assembled test kits and for storage of components, chemicals, and biological agents used to develop test kits, Harper said. Investigators with the U.S. Centers for Disease Control determined in May that the Reedley warehouse had at least 20 potentially infectious agents besides the COVID-19 virus stored in its refrigerators, according to documents filed in Fresno County Superior Court. Those bacterial, Viral and parasitic materials included chlamydia, E. coli, streptococcus, hepatitis B and C, human herpes, HIV, the virus that causes AIDS, rubella and malaria. In addition to numerous code violations at the site, an array of potentially toxic chemicals was also discovered when officials with the City of Reedley and the Fresno County Department of Public Health were able to make a full site inspection in March, Harper said. Harper added that part of the warehouse was partitioned as a makeshift plywood room with boxes containing nearly 1,000 laboratory mice, almost 200 found dead. A news report in the Mid-Valley Times, a local Reedley newspaper, about the cleanup gave rise to rampant speculation on social media about the laboratory and its operations and potential connections to China. Fresno City Council member Gary Bredefeld, capitalizing on the brewing social media furor, blasted Fresno County health officials and the County Board of Supervisors in a press conference Monday, accusing them of concealing news about the lab for months since its closure in March until the Reedley newspaper wrote about it last week. He called for county leaders to let people know what's going on. The COVID pandemic that reached the Fresno region in March 2020 resulted in the destruction of lives, livelihoods, the economy and business, Bredefeld said of national, state and local safety mandates that closed businesses and schools or required people to wear masks in public, repeating a criticism he has often voiced. We had officials locally that were silent and complicit with all the unconstitutional and destructive government orders. And now they're silent again, he said in reference to the Reedley lab. Joe Prado, Assistant Director of the Fresno County Department of Public Health, said an emergency declaration for the site was not deemed necessary because the property had been shut down and contained in early March by Reedley city officials. There wasn't a public notice because it didn't meet the criteria for an emergency declaration, Prado told the Beat. During this entire time as we are evaluating this process, and all of the 14 federal and state agencies that we're coordinating with, this is still an ongoing investigation, Prado said. There are going to be some things we can't talk about because federal and state agencies are still investigating, he added. Among the agencies involved are the Centers for Disease Control, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the State Department of Toxic Substances Control, and the State Department of Public Health and its agencies dealing with medical waste and laboratory field services. I can't speak to any criminal charges because there is this ongoing investigation, Prado said. There's a challenge of finding a balance between maintaining the integrity of the investigation and making sure this doesn't happen again in Fresno County. Harper said Tuesday that more information didn't come out earlier because it took time to get all of this investigation together. Our response time was longer because this is an unprecedented event, she said, adding that CDC and FDA officials said a lab situation like this has not been found before in the U.S. We're all trying to figure out what we can do, who's in charge of what, how to organize this, who goes in first. All of that is being learned while we're going through this process. We're literally writing the policy and procedure as we're going along, Harper added. Genetically modified mice prompt speculation. Court documents include a reference to a March 3 statement by Shiquan Yao, reportedly the president of Prestige Biotech, that indicated mice found at the site were genetically modified to catch and carry the COVID-19 virus for testing related to development of diagnostic testing kits. At that point in time, that sparked a lot of concern for us, Harper said, adding that Yao's English language skills were limited. A subsequent inspection by consulting veterinarian Nina Han, who has worked as an attending veterinarian for several California universities and research labs, clarified that the mice, while under distress and in neglected conditions, did not appear to be sick or injected with any infectious agent and were simply being stored at the Reedley lab, not subjected to experimentation. Bredefeld, in his press conference Monday, asserted that the Reedley lab was producing COVID-19, and he questioned what was the purpose and goals of their experimenting with COVID-19 and having mice catch and carry the disease. The council member, who is also running for a seat on the Fresno County Board of Supervisors, also raised concerns about Reedley's proximity to Lemoore Naval Air Station in neighboring Kings County, which is the U.S. Navy's West Coast base for squadrons of FA-18 Super Hornet strike fighter jets. The Navy base is about 35 miles from Reedley. In a war with China, these are the aircraft that we would rely upon to sink Chinese naval vessels and give us victory, Bredefeld said, quoting an unsubstantiated social media post. He added his own question during his press conference. Is the location of this lab coincidence or purposeful? Bredefeld acknowledged the speculative nature of what he was repeating. I haven't verified anything, he said in response to questions. I raised the speculation. Could it be a possibility? Yes, speculation. I was clear that's what it is. On Tuesday, Harper, who has been involved with the investigation since December, discounted such speculation as inaccurate and damaging. I understand how the rumor, about the mice, got started. But it's been debunked by the veterinarian, and it's not valid, Harper said. The other thing is the idea that they were making some kind of super weapon to take out Lamore, unless Lamore was planning on buying a high volume of pregnancy tests, she added. When I see that kind of hysteria going on, it's unwarranted. It's putting stress on people that really don't need it, and it's just not true. Prado dismissed the assertion that the lab was producing COVID-19, noting that there was no indication that was happening at the site. The mice, he added, were part of the process of determining whether the test kits manufactured by the company were valid in detecting the virus. That's the extent of what COVID looked like in that room, he said. Fresno County's interim health officer, Dr. Rice Vora, issued 3 separate health officer orders to the company, on April 21st, May 31st and June 9th, each also posted as public notices to the health department's website. The first ordered the lab's operators to produce an inventory of materials, chemicals and equipment. The subsequent orders called for the closure of business operations and abatement of any biological materials at the lab site, orders that Prestige Biotech and its officials appeared to ignore. How the clandestine lab came to light. Prestige Biotech leased most of the southern half of the sprawling building at 850 I Street near downtown Reedley and along one of the city's main thoroughfares. Harper said that on December 19th, she received an anonymous complaint about a possibly unlicensed business in the supposedly vacant warehouse. All of a sudden there were at least 4 cars there parked there at any time, she said. After a drive-by when she saw cars parked at the entrance, she drove around to the rear of the building and discovered a garden hose protruding from a hole drilled through the warehouse wall and running the length of the building. That's a violation because this portion of the warehouse is cold storage from back in the 1950s when this was built, Harper said. I thought, they've got no plumbing, but they're doing something where they need water. A nearby doorway was blocked open by a broom or mop handle, and it had an exhaust fan blowing out of the building. It reeked. The smell was horrible, Harper said. The fan was being used to blow air, dander and odors from the room where the mice were housed. Together, the hose and door provided enough cause for Harper to return to the front of the building and ask for access to do a preliminary inspection, she said. A woman in a lab coat, gloves and a surgical mask answered the door and allowed Harper to enter. She said that she and several other women working at tables were boxing up already packaged pregnancy tests for shipping. As the women accompanied Harper to the corner of the building where the hose was protruding, she said she noticed the refrigerators, the plywood room for the mice, and manufacturing equipment that was wrapped up and being stored. The hose was connected to a sink as a water source. When I was going through and seeing all the refrigerators and freezers, one of my main concerns is they had non-permitted electrical installed for all of these refrigerators to be plugged into, Harper said. It's a big concern for a fire hazard. Then we had this room with these mice that had a ventilation system and lights, and that was all non-permitted as well, she added. Harper and other code officers assisting could see vials of blood or other materials in some of the refrigerators that had glass doors, so they retreated from the building and called the county health department's environmental health division.
Covered from head to
There,
toe.
a health inspector examined Harper's emailed photos and explained that the company previously operated in Fresno and that the county had been looking for them. Together, the county and city decided within a day or two of the December 19th visit to make a referral to the FBI. We didn't realize what possible crimes could be going on, or how safe it would be for us to return to the property, Harper said. The FBI looked into the case and in late January responded that it was safe for city code enforcement and county health officials, and any other enforcement agencies to return, Harper said. Between a March 16th inspection and April 12th, when Harper and veterinarian Hahn returned with an abatement warrant, Harper said it fell to her to feed and water the mice. Harper and Hahn determined that by April 12th, 178 mice had died. The remaining 773 were euthanized and ultimately incinerated, except for 10 specimens now in custody of the Reedley Police Department, according to court documents. Harper told the Bee this week that the dead mice are being stored in a police evidence freezer that's cold enough to preserve DNA and cells. The mice were preserved for the owners to reclaim as a result of the abatement, Harper added. However, no one has come forward to claim the mice. An ongoing lack of cooperation. Harper and other city officials weren't the only ones facing a lack of cooperation from representatives of Prestige Biotech. Prado, the county's assistant health department director, told the Bee this week that before and even after Vora issued the first county health officer order in April, the company either had given us misinformation, didn't understand what we were asking, or intentionally just misled us completely. That was really troubling that the business owner wasn't forthcoming with information, he added. Representatives at the lab stated that the owner lived in China, Prado said. We wanted to interview them face to face, but they always presented multiple barriers to be able to really discuss directly with the president and owners of the company. Over 3 days, July 5th to 7th, Fresno County carried out an abatement warrant at the warehouse to clear out the various biological materials and medical waste, as well as containers and equipment that had been contaminated, according to court records. A total of 127 containers of biological material and medical waste, each holding about 44 gallons, were removed. What's happening now, and what's next? By Tuesday morning, the 36 refrigerators and freezers had been moved to a covered outdoor area of the property. Before they can be dismantled and recycled, environmental regulations require that the refrigerant chemicals be drained and contained. And in an alcove of the building, visible through open roll-up doors facing I Street, were dozens of boxes bearing taped seals labeling the contents as embargoed by the state health department. Those, Harper said, contained various types of already assembled test kits, as well as components for the manufacture of additional test kits. In a telephone interview with the Bee, Fresno County Supervisor Nathan Magzig said he became aware of the Reedley lab in March. I think if someone just took the time to look at what this site is, what's been done and what is the true level of concern, if you look at the whole thing, it shouldn't rise to the level of alarm bells today, Magzig said. Gary Bredefeld didn't give me a call. I'm not aware of him calling anyone at the county to try to get that information. Bredefeld said at his press event Monday that he had not contacted any of the members of the Board of Supervisors or the County Health Department. How this story was reported? Correction. Nina Hahn, a veterinarian who consulted with the city of Reedley on its investigation of a Chinese-owned, unpermitted lab, has been an attending veterinarian for several California universities and research laboratories. Her current affiliation was misstated in the original version of this story. This story was originally published August 3, 2023, 4:38 p.m.
Next article.
Fresno man enters plea and...
You guys want to hear something really freaking crazy? Really freaking crazy. And very close to home to the Idaho 4. See this name? Reportedly the president of Prestige Biotech. That name right there, I believe, very, very close to the name of the owner of the Queen Road apartments. I'm going to find those pictures for you. I'm going to find that information for you, because I've got it somewhere. I'm sure you guys might find it before I do, because like I said, I just came across this article. I woke up after being at the doctor today, came home and had to, ouch, kitty, ouch, claws, stop. Had to take meds, and then it knocked me out, and I just woke up, and I had to get something to eat before I had to take my other medication. So this, I popped on, Google popped up, and this came up on there, and so I just started looking at it, and I was like, oh my god. And I hadn't seen this part yet, because I only kind of read the first part of it, just scrolled just maybe not even a quarter of the way through, like half of that, and I decided I'm going to pop this on right away and get it up on the tube. And as it was going through, this name popped up, and I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. This is mind-boggling, mind-blowing. And if this is the case, what's going on in Idaho? What are they hiding, and what did Kaylee find? Do we know? Tell you what, if it involves this is much bigger than anybody, than any of us even imagined. I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm not saying this is the owner. I'm saying the name of the owner, I swear, is like it's almost exactly like this, but I'm thinking that the Y is an X in front of it on the other name. But I think the first name is the same. So who knows? Ah, man, alive. This is crazy. Anyway, I am going to try to get some shut-eye, if I can, after listening to this damn thing. I'll leave the link to it. And if you just Googled it, you'll seriously, after I clicked on this one, you should have seen how many popped up after that. I was blown away. I didn't have any clue. Way, way awful. Anyway, I will hopefully be able to have enough energy to do some chatting tomorrow, maybe, you know? Anyway, I appreciate all of you, and thanks for hanging in there with me. All right. Peace in, babies.